Hey everyone, I'm glad you could make it. Wait, there's more to come. I have a strange story to tell you today. This all began when Lisa and I had been married for more than 23 years. My name is Mike Walker. We have 3 kids, a girl starting her first year at Stanford and 2 boys in their early 20s. Even though things looked great on the outside, our lives were anything but. About 12 years ago, I realized I had put on a few pounds. It wasn't anything too big, but I chose to change a few things. I cut down on sugar and started working out more often, and I was able to get back to the shape I was in when I played college football. My weight hadn't changed much in over a year, even though I worked at a desk. 10 years. You might think that my wife would be happy that I'm getting better, right? But not quite. Lisa took it very badly. She was really sad, as if my efforts to improve myself were a judgment on her. She would say mean things about me and ask me if I didn't like her the way she was. It was the first time I ever told her to change how she looks. I kept telling her that something about my new routine worried her, even though she was beautiful. At the time, I had no idea how strong her fears were, but they were bigger than I was. As you can see, Lisa had always said nice things about Katie, Diane, and Jen, 3 of our close friends. All of them had read a lot, were sure of themselves, and were in great shape. That wasn't because they were trying to brag or anything, it was just how they were. Specifically, Jen had been through a tough breakup a few years ago. His wife had been cheating on her with another man. She left him so quickly that it made his head spin. I even helped Jen through her breakup by giving her mental support and a loan to keep her business going. Lisa was very angry, to say the least. Jen was just as much her friend as mine, but she was mad that I had told her to keep going. It didn't matter that I had helped her while Lisa was there. It wasn't like I was spending time by myself with her, which led her to believe that having her own affair would be the best way for her to deal with how she feels. Then things began to go badly. Lisa's behavior has been a little off since Jen and her ex-husband split up, but not really out of the ordinary. There wasn't much difference between how close we were and how our lives were going, even though I was always more interested than she was. But now that I look back, I can see that there were signs that something was wrong. That being said, how I found out about her romance. It was so overused that it was almost embarrassing, man. For work, I had to go 150 miles away from home, and there was snow and ice on the roads. As I looked at the traffic, I could see that there was a big backup on the road. Lisa was told. I told them on the phone that I would be home at least an hour or 2 later than planned. Even though she seemed busy on the phone, she told me to be careful and drive slowly. After I hung up the phone, something strange happened. The parking helper of all people gave me a tip. Take a different route to get around the traffic jam, he told me. That would save me at least 60 minutes. I did what he said, and sure enough, I got home a lot faster than I thought I would. The famous strange car was in our driveway as soon as I got off the street. But this wasn't any old car. Fred Parker owned it. The head librarian at the library where Lisa volunteers. Let's just say Fred wasn't the most beautiful person in the world. He was fat, in his 40s, and to be honest, kind of ugly. It was his car, and I couldn't help but think of Lisa when I saw it. I had never liked him and didn't understand why she would be interested in Lisa. After putting my car somewhere out of sight, I walked over to our house. Our house is pretty old, and it's hard to see our long winding path from the road. I broke in through the back door, took my shoes off, and made my way inside. I made my way up the back stairs as quietly as I could. At that point, I heard Lisa and Fred talking in the spare bedroom. Lisa spoke, but I couldn't quite understand what she said. The king of training will be here in about an hour and a half, so I've got plenty of time to clean up, she said. It wasn't hard to figure out that I was the king of training, even though I had never called myself that. Her tone made it clear that she wasn't very pleased with how hard I was working to get fit. I gave way to something inside me. When Fred did something bad in my house, I decided right then that I would hold him responsible. In a hurry, I ran down the back steps to get to the utility area and turned off the main plugs. I crept back up with a flashlight in my hand. At the top of the main stairs, I could hear them screaming even though it was very dark inside the house. As Fred walked down the stairs, I heard him say something about being careful. I reached out and pulled his shoe forward. It's possible that Fred's scream when he fell down those steep stairs gave me chills. He hit the steps hard more than once. After the third or fourth time, he quit talking altogether. I left before seeing what happened. Instead, I quickly left the house using the same path, turned on the power again, and went to a nearby Starbucks to kill time. To keep up appearances, I bought 2 cookies, one for Lisa and one for myself. I did this after looking like I had just gotten back from the city for about an hour. After that, I went home. Lisa wasn't there when I got there, but there was one mark she couldn't hide, a small spot on the wall and a dark red stain that went all the way up the steps. There was blood there. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Fred had come down and I had no idea what was wrong with him. The amount of blood on the ground made it look bad. As I went upstairs, I was careful not to step on any blood. Lisa hadn't even had time to change the sheets in the guest bedroom, he saw. It's likely that she was scared when Fred took his little fall. After that, I wrapped the bloody sheets in plastic, put them in a plastic bag, and hid them in the laundry room. Then I called Lisa on her cell phone and set the Starbucks bag down, with the cookies on the table in the kitchen. She picked up after a few rings, but her voice was shaking. Besides that, what the hell are those red spots on the stairs for? I tried to sound firm but worried when I asked. After a long pause, she finally spoke up, At Memorial Hospital I am. Fred Thompson, the one from the library, is that right? This is where I had to take him when he fell down the stairs. I could hear the fear in her voice. She knew there was a serious problem. She didn't know how much I already knew, though. Lisa, what in the world was Fred doing upstairs in our house? I growled at the phone. She stumbled, clearly shocked. She trailed off. We were, talking about something. What were we talking about? Lisa asked. What on earth will I discover when I go upstairs? You have no business going upstairs, she blurted, trying to stay calm, but it was too late. I hung up the phone and quickly packed my things into a couple of bags. I took the bloodstained bedding and the Starbucks bill and headed straight for a motel. No matter what excuses she tried to make when she got home, I wasn't going to stay. I ended our conversation when she tried to call me later. This evening, I'm staying at a hotel. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with a divorce attorney, I told her in a detached way, then hung up and turned off my phone. There was no going back. I had an appointment. My friend Jen suggested I meet with a divorce lawyer the next day. She was quick, tough, and didn't waste time. We talked about the details of my case, and I was sure I had a good one because of the evidence I had, the bloodstains, the affair, and everything else. But things got much worse after a few days. When the police came to my office, they wanted to talk to me about Fred's fall. Fred seemed to have survived the fall, but he had serious cuts, fractures, and a concussion. He told the police that he thought someone had grabbed his leg just before he fell, and that the house had mysteriously turned black. I kept my cool and said, I thought Fred's fall was just an accident. I wasn't even at home at the time. I was stuck in traffic and stopped at Starbucks. You can look at the traffic cameras, the receipts, or anything else you need. To back up my alibi, I gave them my Starbucks receipt and valet ticket. The police didn't look into it any further, but I knew my marriage was about to end. Soon after, I had a strong case for divorce, and Lisa had no chance of escaping this one. Things were starting to come together. The divorce happened faster than I thought they would. My lawyer was able to quickly get a court order to get Lisa and Fred's DNA samples. When their DNA was found on the bloody bedding in the guest room, I had a strong case. People started calling us as word spread among our friends and family. Some of them were shocked and sad. I did what she said, but inside I felt more like relief. I couldn't lie anymore now that the truth was out. Jen was the only person who seemed to understand how I felt, free from the betrayal and ready to move on with my life. The divorce was finalized quickly, and Lisa got the house and half of our joint assets. That didn't bother me too much because I never really loved the house now that the kids were mostly grown. It was too big for the two of us and needed regular maintenance. She bought out my share to keep her comfort level, but as you can see, I co-founded a business a few years ago that made vertical axis wind turbines, which I designed. The company did very well, and I turned down a very good offer to sell it to a large international company just before I found out about Lisa's affair. The best part of this deal was that I didn't have to give Lisa any of the money from the sale because of some special conditions. Lisa had to give up all of her rights to the business years ago, when I was just starting out, because of insurance. She was paid $200,000 to sign the contract, which she gladly did because she didn't think the company would succeed. She wasn't as happy when the company sold for millions of dollars. Everything else was split evenly between us. but I kept the entire windfall from the sale of the company. I had enough money to start over, but not everyone was happy about the divorce. My college students were supportive after hearing the whole story. But my daughter, Emma, who was very close to her mother, was furious. She didn't understand why I wouldn't make things right with Lisa. Emma said her mother had made a mistake and was just dealing with low self-esteem. She even said Lisa deserved a second chance and said she was sorry for everything. Emma would never understand what I was trying to say. Lisa's betrayal was wrong, no matter what the reason was. I had to accept that Emma might not get it for a long time, if at all, and that reconciliation was never going to happen for me. Once the divorce was final, I needed to clear my mind. I packed up my Tesla and drove west across the United States by myself. It was the perfect time to get away from everything and think about what I wanted to do next. I wasn't worried about money, so I could do whatever I wanted. I needed that road trip so badly. I drove through national parks for weeks at a time, stopping to walk and enjoy the scenery. After the upheaval of the past few months, I wasn't sure what I was looking for, maybe just some peace and quiet. When I finally got to Arizona, close to the Grand Canyon, I decided to go on a guided trip with a guide named Rex down into the canyon. There were 2 college students, a married couple from England, Monica and Liz, Monica's teen daughter Abby, and Monica's siblings. I hit it off right away with Monica and Liz. We were the same age, and during the trek we became close, joked and told stories. But her husband had to work, so he couldn't come. After a day of hiking, Liz and I got together around the campfire to drink bourbon. I told a couple of scary ghost stories that made everyone nervous, especially Abby, who was paying close attention. During one of the stories, I played a joke on her by grabbing her shoulders and yelling. She screamed and ran away, but it was all in good fun, and we all laughed afterward. But things got serious that night. I woke up when I heard Abby scream in the middle of the night. I looked up and saw that she had just come back from the bathroom when a mountain lion had jumped on her. Without giving it a second thought, I quickly ran away. I grabbed a rock and sped over to give the cat a good scare, but luckily nothing too bad. She was scared, and for the rest of the trip she would not sleep anywhere but next to me. Especially Liz, Monica, and Liz were very grateful. She started flirting more and more over the next few days. She exuded confidence, humor, and a hint of forwardness. I asked them all to dinner when we got back to town after our climb, but by the end of the evening, it was clear Liz had other plans. Liz moved in after Monica and Abby went to bed. She said, "I get to give it to you because I'm divorced, and you deserve a reward for saving Abby." It wasn't very subtle, but it didn't bother me. Things got pretty heated when we moved into my hotel room that night. We didn't sleep much, but I was grinning when we finally fell asleep. The next morning, I had brunch with Monica and Abby. Abby had seen what had happened and was full of jokes. Monica just smiled and made a small comment of her own, but then she leaned in closer and whispered something that stopped me in my tracks. Liz cheated on Mike when they were married. She is not the type to adapt. Enjoy yourself, but don't fall for her. That served as a reminder that even though Liz was charming and fun to be around, I didn't want to get involved with someone who had a history of adultery, especially after what had happened with Lisa. After a busy few days together, Liz and I said our goodbyes, and I made sure to end things there a great time, but nothing more. And that's how my life, which had been a mess of betrayal and pain, got back to a state of something like happiness. It wasn't the life I had imagined, but it seemed like the one I was meant to live.